Taking a look at the reading 7 study questions, the first reading from Plato's Euthyphro. Number 1, why is Socrates at the court? Socrates is at the court because he's been indicted for various charges, including impiety, generally speaking, not believing in the gods that the city believes in. So official gods, official belief of the city. And also corrupting the youth of Athens, which is a two very important charges, actually. As we'll see, they're not very lenient in terms of the kind of punishments you can get for that sort of thing. So that's why he's there. He's been indicted. He's been brought to court. Euthyphro is there because he's indicting someone, his own father, for murder under very murky circumstances. Why is Socrates surprised at Euthyphro's reason for being there? Because he's indicting his own father for murder, which Socrates finds alarming, if not shocking. Number 2, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much irony is Socrates using with Euthyphro? I mean, obviously, that's kind of a humorous question. I'd like to know, though, what I wanted to get out there is that there's some, right? That is, Socrates is using irony with Euthyphro. And by irony, what I really mean is Socrates is not speaking always straightforwardly with Euthyphro. He's joking with him, but he's also saying things that he doesn't quite believe, and that's kind of what irony is we say something ironically when we're not speaking straightforwardly. This is what I think, but we're saying perhaps for various reasons what we don't think in a gentle way, in a humorous way, and I think that that's important to see as you're reading this dialogue. That Socrates is using irony with Euthyphro. So I'm just wondering how much you think he's using. Number 3, when Socrates asks Euthyphro for definition of piety, why does he reject his first answer? The first answer, Euthyphro says something to the effect of, well, what I'm doing now is pious. That's piety. That is indicting a murderer, bringing him to justice. Socrates doesn't say, well, that's wrong. What he says is that's the wrong sort of answer that I'm looking for. That is, I'm not looking for you to give me an example of something which is pious. I'm asking you to define the concept. That is, give me a general definition of piety, which would capture whatever it is that all pious things have, which make them pious. So that giving an example is not quite doing that. Even if the example is correct, it's not pointing out that feature, which would be the general feature shared by all pious things, which is what he wants. So Euthyphro eventually does that, right? When Euthyphro defines piety as that which is dear to the gods, that actually conforms to the type of definition that Socrates wants, because it's a general definition. It says, well, everything which is pious because it's dear to the gods. That's the kind of definition that Socrates wants. But what are his problems with that? What does he see in that? Well, he sees different sort of difficulties. And the first thing he sees is that from something that Euthyphro has said earlier, that this might involve a contradiction because the gods disagree with each other. The gods fight with each other, so that something which is dear or loved by one of the gods may not be loved by the other, and this would set up a contradiction, because if Zeus loves one thing and Hera doesn't love it, then the same thing is both loved by the gods and not loved by the gods. So that would be a logical contradiction. So there's some problems with initial problems, which saying that which is dear to the gods is what is pious, because it would seem to involve a contradiction on the basis of something else that he said earlier. Of course, he has deeper problems with this idea, which come up at the end of this reading, the beginning of the next. On number 5, very open-ended question, but what overall impression do you get about what sort of person Socrates is? I'm curious about that. I'm always curious about people's first impressions of Socrates. If you haven't read any of Plato's dialogues before, I'm in, or if you have, that's good too, but I'm just interested in what people's impressions are of Socrates. He's, of course, probably the biggest hero in Western philosophy, so a lot of baggage comes with that. I'm interested in the kind of response that people might have who don't know about that baggage. There's every reason to think that he's honestly trying to do Euthyphro some good here. And there's also reason to think that he may be mocking him. I don't know. So I'm just wondering what you thought. Of course, there's no right answer there.